Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. We're recording this a day earlier than usual on Thursday. We got the Final Four on Saturday. We got two, matchups that I don't think many expected, but here we are in the Final Four. We got Florida Atlantic, San Diego State, and then Miami-UConn. We'll start off with the first game, which is FAU, San Diego State. We have San Diego State, the 5 seed in the South, who went through College of Charleston, Furman, Alabama, and then Creighton in the Elite Eight. And then you have FAU, the 9 seed in the East, who went through Memphis, Fairleigh Dickinson, Tennessee, and then Kansas State in the Elite Eight. And so now we're in the Final Four right now. San Diego State is a 3-point favorite, which it went up. They were, I think, a 1.5-point favorite before. So it went up in their favor. And then the over-under's at 131.5. Corey, what's your thoughts and prediction in this game?
Yeah, so, I would love to, hammer Florida Atlantic. I am a big fan of what Dusty May is doing over there for the Owls of Florida Atlantic and Boca Raton. But as you mentioned, I literally saw the line move. Like you mentioned, it was 2.5, I believe, yesterday, and then now it's already 3. I didn't even know it moved to 3. So I guess it's a telling sign that they know that SDSU is probably going to be going to the championship game, just because, the thing about SDSU is that even though they get down early, they have the second half adjustment defensively to stop any team and then combat that with the fact that their offense will be productive on the opposite side of the court. So it's going to be a hard day for FAU if they're not landing their shots, and especially for FAU, who has a history of turning over the ball a lot. They're going against a team that loves to be getting lanes, stop the pass, force turnovers, stop the 3-point at all costs, and that's just a hard thing to go up against, and it's already telling because the line's already moving in the Aztecs' favor. So I would definitely say SDSU is definitely going to win this game, but I would say my money would be right now on FAU to cover. I feel like 3 is a little too much for them, and I've had a history of betting against them, and it has not gone in my favor. And I didn't even pick them to win one game, and they're all the way in the Final Four. So I feel like I need to jump on the bandwagon, sometime. But I feel like SDSU should win this game just because, the fact that they are a very good team defensively. I feel like it's just going to come down to, maybe some clutch free throws from maybe Matt Bradley or maybe Mensa or something. But, this is definitely going to be a fun game to kind of kick off the Final Four on Saturday. I actually, it's kind of funny because I had a friend of mine on Twitter. His name is Patrick. I tweeted about the Final Four, being FAU, Miami, UConn, and SDSU. I said, who had that on their 2023 March Madness bingo card, and then he called it the Funny Four, not the Final Four, the Funny Four. And then I was like, well, it kind of makes sense considering the Final Four is on April 1st, which is April Fool's Day. So I feel like this is definitely the Funny Four. So I'm going to refer to it as the Funny Four for now. So those are my Funny Four predictions. In FAU, SDSU, I feel like FAU, and it's a great story, obviously. I also want to highlight the NBA championship game tonight, because that is UAB and North Texas, and those are literally two teams who played each other in the semifinal of the Conference USA tournament to almost get to March. And they came up, UAB got the win, and that was a fun game to watch. And and now they're both playing each other in the championship game tonight, so that's a great story for that. And then FAU, obviously the one team representing that conference in the Final Four, it's just a telling sign that, maybe the Conference USA is a lot better and that than a lot of people thought, and there's another conference that people sleep on consistently. So, but I like what FAU is doing, but I feel like in the battle of the mid majors right now, obviously between future Pac-12 school San Diego State and Florida Atlantic, I'm going to lean toward San Diego State. I just feel like Brian Dutcher and that Aztec team, whatever the score is at halftime, I feel like they just know how to adjust to make their defense more presentable throughout the second half and have more of an effect to where they are just shutting any team down. And that has been the case for, their game against Alabama. We saw it against Creighton. And we saw it again. Well, they just shut Furman down pretty much the whole game. And, and now they're playing against a team that is a pretty decent team when you look at their KenPom ranking, pretty 50-50, right, in terms of FAU. They're, I think, 30th in KenPom and then 35th defensively in KenPom, 30th offensively in KenPom. So, it's not like they're horrible either way. So I feel like they're a pretty balanced team, and that's kind of what you want versus San Diego, which is a lot more defensively present versus their offense, which is, I think like near the 70s. So, that can definitely play a factor if San Diego gets cold. And, FAU just likes to push the pace and turn the ball and, go in transition. So that'll be a big factor as well, seeing if, they can push the pace against a team like San Diego State that loves to slow it down. So that'll definitely be the biggest matchup of the game on Saturday. But I believe that FAU will definitely cover right now. I feel like a 3-point spread is a little bit too high considering, all the varying things that could happen. And, obviously it's been a whole week rest for these guys, and, they're all down in Houston, and you never know what could happen because, and now it's the Final Four. All you gotta do is win 2 games, right? And there's added pressure there. You never know, but I still feel like SDSU should win this game and should be advancing to the championship game on Monday.
Yeah, I mean, you talk about SDSU and their adjustments in the second half, but I mean, FAU also has had some comebacks in the second half themselves, so that should make this game even more fun. Like you said, kind of contrasting styles of, more defense for the Aztecs and kind of more offense and shooting for FAU. Definitely for FAU, the biggest focal point, like you also mentioned, is turnovers. I believe against Kansas State, they had either at or more than, like either close to or more than, I think it was like 20 turnovers. And they still somehow, won the game. But against San Diego State, you're not going to be able to win this game when you commit anywhere close to that amount of turnovers. So definitely taking care of the ball will be huge for FAU. And then, they like to shoot the ball, and so from deep. And so that's going to be big for them as well, is, getting hot early and kind of setting the tempo for the game of more fast pace and not kind of falling into SDSU's kind of slow pace, slow tempo type of offense that they like to play in overall game. So, I mean, straight up, I lean towards SDSU as well. I'm not 100% confident in taking them -3, so I probably just lean towards laying the juice in this game and, going money line for SDSU. The under at 131.5 could be a potential look as well in this game. If we think SDSU is going to win, it's probably going to be more lower scoring than higher scoring. So I kind of lean that way as well. But yeah, so that's the first game, and then we'll get into the second game, Miami and UConn. UConn's been, the most dominant team out of everyone, obviously, from start to finish. First getting by Iona, and then St. Mary's, Arkansas, and then Gonzaga in the Elite Eight. Miami, the 5 seed in the Midwest, just barely getting by Drake, and Indiana, Houston, and Texas to get to this point. Right now, UConn's a 5.5-point favorite, so pretty big for a Final Four. And then over under of 149. Korea, what's your thoughts and prediction for this game?
Yeah, I am kind of avoiding taking one team or the other right now. I feel like, Miami's backcourt could actually be a problem for this UConn team, even though UConn knows how to shut down any team defensively for them. But at the same time, I feel like this game is definitely going to be going over. If I'm leaning toward anything, I like the over in this game. We saw what Miami did against Texas, a pretty stout defensive team. They put up 88, and UConn, even though it was a blowout, they still put up 82 against Gonzaga, who, yes, they have a bad defense, but still, they dominated them so much and they were consistently shooting the ball well. I feel like that will lead for the over. I feel like 149 is too low. I feel like that's definitely going to hit, so I'm a fan of the over. But if you had to, point a gun to my head and say, who are you picking right now? I'm going to go with UConn. I just feel like UConn has been, as you mentioned, the most dominant team in the tournament. We saw even though Iona made it a game for a little bit, UConn just ran away with it throughout the second half. They continue that momentum in their win against St. Mary's. They dominated that game. Then in the Sweet 16, they dominated Arkansas. In the Elite Eight, they dominated Gonzaga. So they've just dominated their last 3 games. And, now they're playing a team that, even though they have one of the best offenses, they also have a not so great defense, right? And and also these two teams play very contrasting paces, because you have UConn that likes to slow it down and likes to feed into Sonogo and run their offense. And Miami loves to run the fast pace and get in transition offense, and that's how they like to play their basketball. So this is another tortoise in the hare kind of matchup, kind of like FAU and SDSU. So it's just going to be, which one's going to win, the tortoise or the hare. That's going to be both these matchups in the Funny Four. I'm excited to see, these two teams, because, Miami and, what Jim Larinaga has done with that program, and, Nigel Pack and Isaiah Wong, one of the best backcourts in basketball right now. I mean, they look absolutely dominant. And then also you have UConn and just what they've done. I mean, they were undefeated in the non-conference before, and then obviously they kind of lost, I wouldn't say credit, but just kind of lost their way in the Big East. But the Big East is a very tough conference, so credit to them. And then they just looked absolutely dominant, and they just started winning games and just looking good. So that's kind of where they came out of, and I feel like UConn, they're going to carry that momentum into their game Saturday night, and then go into the championship on Monday. But I will say, if Miami wins this game, I will not be surprised, because I feel like if Nigel Pack and Isaiah Wong can shoot the lights out and have a great game, then I feel like Miami can definitely pull off the upset, well, quote unquote upset, because UConn's a 5.5-point favorite. So the bettors are already saying that this is going to be almost a blowout, not a blowout, but a large enough win to where it's not going to be in the final seconds close. They think that it's going to be at least almost a 6-point game around there. So, or a 2-possession game at the least. So, if that's what I'm saying, like if Wong and Pat can get hot, then who knows what can happen. So that's why I'm not really taking like the spreads. I don't really like the fact that UConn's such a big favorite. I feel like that's kind of a trap because of how dominant they've looked versus a really, really hot Miami team that just has, has looked really, really good, the past, 3 games when, they obviously I wouldn't say struggled, but they kept it close against Drake in the first round, but then they absolutely dominated Indiana, shut down Trace Jackson Davis. And then obviously they forced so many turnovers against Houston to upset them, and then the Elite Eight. They obviously beat a Dylan Dessou led Texas. I will say Texas not having Dylan Dessou was a big loss for them. Kind of maybe the big reason as to why they did lose, in my opinion. So I feel like Miami can definitely make it interesting and fun, but I don't like the spreads. I would definitely just take the over. I feel like it's definitely going to be maybe a high scoring game, and definitely a fun one to close out the Funny Four on Saturday.
Yeah, I mean, Miami definitely goes as far as, long impact take them, as has been the case pretty much the whole season. But like you said, they've been, arguably the best and most consistent backcourt in the country, all season. And, they've made it this far for a reason. So they're definitely going to need those two to keep, to stay hot shooting wise. They're going to need Omier down low to kind of do his best to kind of contain Sanogo as best as he can. Obviously, you're probably not going to shut him down, but maybe get him in foul trouble, I think, would be the best case for Miami early on against Sanogo down low. But yeah, I mean, UConn's not like a super slow paced team, but they're definitely slower than Miami for the most part. And then, so this should definitely be high scoring. Like you said, the over-under for a reason is like 20 points higher than the other game on Saturday. So yeah, I mean, I'm rooting, for Miami to make it. I want to see the All Florida championship between FAU and Miami. We'll see if that, comes to fruition and all of that. But I do lean towards Miami to at least cover the 5.5, to at least keep it within 2 possessions, or I guess it could be 6 points, 2 possessions, and then UConn will cover. But keep it within 5. I do lean that way for Miami, and then hopefully they can pull out the win. But obviously UConn is the heavy favorite out of the 4 teams remaining for a reason. So it's going to take a huge performance from Nigel Pack and Isaiah Wong to make that happen. I think that will do it for the Final Four on Saturday. We have the national championship on Monday that we'll go over in Monday's episode, and we'll preview that Monday. Or I guess maybe we won't be able to record before that game, but we'll figure it out some way. But is there anything else you wanted to go over, Korea?
Well, there actually is one more thing I did want to go over real quick. I know we shouldn't be talking about a team that didn't even make the tournament, but UNC. We got to talk about what's going on with the portal. Obviously, first it was Baycott who said even after the disastrous season that they endured, he's coming back. He wants to come back for one more season and try to at least have like a revenge tour. And then it was RJ Davis, and that was kind of a surprise because everyone kind of heard the RJ Davis and and then obviously Caleb Love, who I'm about to get into next. The rift that they had because RJ Davis was mad that Caleb Love messed around with his girlfriend, but RJ Davis was messing around with other girls while he was, with her. So he was cheating on her. So it was just a whole mess in itself. But RJ Davis decided to stay, right? And that was interesting to see because, I was, kind of surprised that I thought if I thought of anyone between the two, I thought he was the one that was going to go, but he decided to come back. And then Caleb Love recently, I believe that was 2 days ago, as a Monday, I believe, entered into the transfer portal. And, it's kind of looking like, UNC is, the backcourt is gone. The duo between Caleb Love and RJ Davis that led that team to the national championship is forever tainted because of the because I feel like it's because of the rumor on it. Honestly, I just feel like that's kind of the reason. And Ari, I just want to get your thoughts on this whole UNC situation. Obviously, with Baycott and RJ Davis returning, but Caleb Love saying peace out. I am going out of here. Do you still potentially see UNC, but maybe having a revenge tour and making it back to the NCAA tournament next year in 2024, or with Baycott and Davis and whoever they potentially signed in the offseason in terms of recruiting, or transfer portal wizards as well? I mean, what do you make of this? What do you think of early outlook for the Tar Heels for next year, Ari?
Yeah, I mean, I assume that they shouldn't have too much of a problem of bringing in another guard or two through the portal. I mean, obviously there was that drama that was going on in that backcourt off the court, so maybe it is best for both of them that they don't play together another year. So we'll see. We'll see where Caleb Love heads in the portal. I'm sure he'll have plenty of interest from teams. But yeah, I mean, we'll see who UNC brings in. It's hard to see them missing a tournament 2 years in a row. Just a program of their stature. Obviously, Roy Williams no longer the coach, but they still have the name brand just of UNC. And I mean, they almost made a tournament this year, and to me, they shouldn't have even really been in the conversation at all. So I think if they can even just improve a tiny bit next year, then they should definitely find their way back in the tournament. How high of a seeded they are, is to be determined, obviously. But as we've seen this year, all you need to do is make it, to have a chance. And as we saw from this year and from UNC, when they made it all the way last year, as they were, or like a 7, 8, 9, see something like that. So, we've seen the last 2 years of lower seeds kind of making a run, Final Four, championship, and all of that. So, like I said, we'll see who they bring in through the portal to kind of replace Caleb Love. But I mean, it's hard to imagine that program missing the tournament completely back-to-back years.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because, as you said, like UNC, a lot of people do not even have this team in the conversation just because of the fact they were absolutely horrible in quad winning games, and they couldn't find a win in them, and they just had so many issues throughout the season. But they were still one of the first teams out, and they decided to not play in the NIT because they thought that they were too prideful to not play in the NIT, which I believe is absolute nonsense. I feel like you should play in the NIT anyways. But that who's to say with that? But I feel like if UNC can get a guard in the portal, or maybe recruit maybe a big name 5-star, because UNC that's a big name. We know the program, and like you said, like they were an 8 seed that led that team all the way to the national championship, and they were kind of they were a Cinderella, obviously. And they weren't like a great team that year, but they were an 8 seed, and they made the tournament when under Hubert Davis in his first year, and this year they weren't horrible. Like, they didn't finish under 500. They just couldn't win a quad one game because they just they could beat everyone below. They couldn't beat everyone above. So I feel like that's what everything that happened. So, but I feel like with maybe a change of scenery, obviously with Caleb Love transferring out and Davis and Baycott coming back, maybe they can a serious tone, a serious change can maybe make a huge impact for this team, and maybe be a little bit scary in the ACC next year as a contender, because right now, you have a lot of teams right now that look at March Madness now as a wide open opportunity because of the craziness that has been this year. I mean, tailing it all together. I mean, FAU, right? A 9 seed who has 3 losses on the season. They were ranked at one point. You know, they've always been a top 30, top 40 team offensively and defensively in KenPom. They love to push the pace. They're a 9 seed. They made it to the Final Four. SDSU, a mid-major. They first time. FAU first time. Miami first time. Like, this is a crazy time. So, you know, I feel like next year, you know, I feel like what has happened this year already is now going to be a launch pad into what can potentially happen next year, and just, you know, see things we, you know, maybe never even seen before. Maybe a 16 seed can make the Final Four, Ari, huh? How about that, huh? I mean, if FDU can pull off the most incredible upset, Princeton can have a Sweet 16 run, FAU can make the Final Four. I mean, what else can happen, right? My prediction, I'm calling it right now. I'm going to say this right now. March 30th, 2023. Book it. Next year's March Madness 2024. We're going to see a 16 seed in the Elite Eight, Ari. I'm calling that right now. A 16 in the Elite Eight. Yes, I'm calling that right now. We got to end it on that. We got to end it on that. we got to end it on that, Ari. But as Ari said, we will try to do a recording before the national championship game on Monday as well, to kind of preview the national championship game, and maybe do a little bit more of an update on some, you know, other names in the portal, like Kirk Risa, who obviously has left Arizona. I don't know, Ari, obviously we can talk about that on Monday, and obviously some other bigger names that have entered or, you know, has mentioned to be in the transfer portal. But that's going to do it for another episode of AKP Store Stock. That is RM Korea. Thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys on Monday for the national championship preview. We'll see you later, guys.